Hey everybody, I am Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm so excited to show you how you can paint yourself at home, following along with me step by step, this amazing, spectacular, colorful sunset over the ocean. I'm going to explain to you how to create this in acrylic, all the techniques, all the tips, all the tricks, step by step, color mixes, tools, everything you need so that you can do this. To help me do that on the mic is my husband, John.
Hello.
He will be the disembodied voice that you hear during the show talking
Yes.
to me. He's a very important voice, though, because he makes sure that not only the camera's on, but they're pointed at the techniques that I'm demonstrating, the concepts that I'm explaining, because what you can see, you can probably duplicate for yourself. Also, to help you succeed at home, if you check the description down below, we have a bunch of extra resources for beginners. We have a traceable, which is a option. So if you're not really ready to draw this, you don't feel confident in that, you can use that to transfer the image on the canvas. We also have a grid because this is a pretty simplistic composition, and the grid can help you understand where to put those lines in position to the measurement of your canvas. And we also have a written out with pictures from steps mini book that you can download and follow along. So you've got the written out instructions and you've got the video. It really ups your chances of like having a painting you feel fantastic about. This video is time-stamped and chapter marked so that those match the mini book and everything else. You must be like, what did I run into? This is a lot of free resources. Yes, it is. And not only that, it's part of a 30-day free painting program. If you wanted to do it, you could just do this lesson on its own. It stands alone. But if you thought you might like to know more about painting water and landscape, this is part of Acrylic April, a 30-day painting program, or 30 painting, depending on when you find it, painting program that teaches you how to paint water in landscape better. So whatever brought you here today, whatever caused you to click that button, don't click away because I'm going to show you how to paint this. So get your paint, get your brushes, come back, and let me show you how you can create this yourself at home, because you really can. So let's look at the materials in today's sunset painting. I have an 8x8 surface, and on it I have a wish for you. I have a wish and intention that you have a really wonderful cloud painting and you're really proud of today's clouds. The acrylic colors that I have out today are quinacridone magenta, cad red medium, cad yellow medium, phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, dioxazine purple, and titanium white. Really, we're just going to be using these colors and a few really fun techniques to create this gorgeous sunset. I don't think there's anything to do but get into step one. Step one is actually really just about dividing the canvas into your sky and ocean scene. So let's take our T-square because it's going to help us do a nice horizontal line. And I'll give you the measurement. I'm going to say right around the 5-inch mark coming down. That's about an inch past the halfway point of this. I'm going to make a horizontal line. Let's take a look at that. What we want is enough ocean to really be able to showcase the way the sunset is reflecting on the water, but not so much that it becomes the predominant story here, because we really want that to be kind of right there. I do want to take a brush and get it a little bit damp. This is a 26 bright, and I'm going to make sure that my little watercolor wishes are a bit blended in. That way they're not kind of blending up into the surface. The easy part will be the lower half. We're going to take our ultramarine and our diox purple and come across here and make a very dark color to start.
That's just sort of a solid color.
Yeah, we're going to just put a solid base for the ocean coming down here. I'm going to come across on the edge of the bright and try to maintain the straight line that I gave myself. Not too bad. And you see I'm sort of dragging it and using the edge of the brush, and that helps me get that solid edge. Make sure that goes around enough of the sides of the canvas for it to be frameable. You don't have to paint the whole sides, but you do want to make sure that what you have is frameable. That's not too bad. Rinse that brush out fairly well. Fairly well. And when we come back on the next step, we're going to do the sky. The reason that I am breaking this down is so that if you're using the mini book, there's a lot of complicated color mixes kind of going up through the ombre of the sky. The ombre? But this part was pretty simplistic and you could get it in easily. So we're going to be doing this really fun, dramatic sunset, John, today. And I like this sunset because it has all the colors.
All of them.
All the colors. We've done sunsets that kind of transition through a couple ranges of color. This one's going to go all the colors, which I really, really like when we get to do this. But to do that, I am going to have to come through an ombre. And I may even just get into my cleanest water because I don't want pigment, purple pigment, to be getting into the bright oranges or yellows of my sky. And I'm going to start out with yellow. Just pure cad yellow. I can even go maybe a little bit over my ocean ledge there because the yellow is so transparent, right? I've got my yellow and I'm going to take, I wiped off my brush just a little bit with a towel. I'm going to take a little of my cad red and get this yellow into an orange. Just a place to begin with, right? A little bit of an orange to begin with. Back and forth with the blend. Looking pretty good. Going to get into some quinacridone. Right? And this is because the quinacridone is going to let me make a very interesting transition. I'm going to take my quinacridone now over into my white. It gives me kind of a peach. I'm going to come here between the two. More white.
Keeps layering.
Yeah, just going back and forth, just trying to get that. Now, I may need to rinse out every once in a while. And that's just so I can control the pigment that is in my brush as I go. Because right now, it's all about control. You can always get a little of your magenta into the mix and kind of create a little dusting. That dusting is a fun bit. Now, here, I've got a lot going on because I'm going to be going from this into blue, and we don't want green, right? So I've wiped my brush off on a towel, and I'm going to bring the blue over here to this sort of middle mix. And I have to make kind of a halftone that's going to be letting me transition from what this is to my bright blue up top. See that transitional half range?
Yeah.
That's going to make this much more believable. I'm brushing back and forth, blending those two spaces together. I'm definitely going to rinse out, wipe my brush off. And now I can absolutely get into a super bright, very bright, pure phthalo blue. Unapologetically phthalo blue. Now here I may want some blending, and if I come back with that dry blending brush, my 1-inch mop, and very gently dust across and blend, I can get a very nice blend there as well and kind of smooth that out so that transition is super soft.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like blushing. So you can see I've got this transition happening, but I've made it a very soft transition. So I've gone from the very difficult yellow to blue without having total green in the middle. Now, understand there's a mild value of green that you will see here, but it won't be green. It'll be like, could have a little kind of green bias to it. And you'll see that in the sky the next time if you observe the sky where it's going from a bright yellow to a blue. There will be a banding where you're like, it's almost like there's a green cast as the light goes through. So I'm going to definitely rinse that out and rinse this brush out. And we're going to dry this and call it a step because you can't get anywhere else until this is in. Well, you can, but this is the goal that you're going for. So let's stop there, photograph it, come back, and we'll do the next layer in the sky. So we can continue forward our composition of our sky and ocean. I'm going to add glazing medium to my palette. This is gloss glazing liquid. And I'm going to do that for areas where I need transparent thin glazes of color or I need to improve blendability. Let's continue to brighten the blue in our sky. I have a very rinsed out 26 bright. I'm going to pull my phthalo blue over and get some more of my titanium white, and this is quite bright because it's a very pure pigment, and I'm going to continue to come in here and add that next layer, and you can see that brightens it even more. But I'm going to wipe here, just get my brush really into the white, if I need to, the glazing medium. Glazing medium will let me get into the previous areas that I've blended without too much difficulty and get a nice little transition there as well. And continue to make this a very bright top of the sky. Wiping out my brush a lot. I'm going to get just glazing medium into it now. And just come across here and just
blend it in.
Blend it in. Even with my finger, I just blend it in. It's titanium white and the blue, so I don't really worry about it that much. Now I'm going to put my 26 to the side, interestingly enough, and I think I'm going to grab a number 8 cat's tongue. You could use a pointed filbert, you could use a filbert, you could use a round, you could use a bright. I just want something that's going to give me some nice lines. Because while I'm here, I'm going to take a little bit of this bright blue and work it into my ocean. I'm going to speak to some of the waves and the bright blue color that is reflected from the sky here. Now there's this wonderful little wave that's going to come across here at an angle. So I'm going to draw this across. And at its base, it's actually got quite a lot of the phthalo blue. And they're coming right there. Sometimes when you do sunsets like this that have a lot of complicated transitions or colors or reflections, you can come in and start to create shape or dimension, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom. So the colors you're using on the top, you can incorporate down in the bottom in the water.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of arcing in some of that little, you know how the waves kind of get a little shape going. I want to kind of imply that here. You know, and it's nice because the purple underneath it hangs in and keeps going. Make sure that I've got a good blue. The blue covers a lot because of the titanium white. And that's sort of an interesting thing to be thinking about. Anytime that you take out some of the depth you need for your waves, you're going to put it back in. So don't be too stressed or concerned for that. It's going to come back.
Titanium white's a very opaque color, right?
It is. It actually was a big deal when it was developed for paint because up until that point, you know, you needed to have something like a zinc white. Have like a bright white, which the problem is zinc white's super deadly to the people that make the pigment. Right? And can be dangerous for artists. Not zinc, Lead. I meant lead.
Lead white.
I meant lead white. Zinc white is perfectly safe. Don't panic.
It's
Don't
just
throw your
transparent.
tube away from you. It's transparent. Zinc is transparent, and they had that. That's also an older color, though it is problematic in oil paints because it can cause crazing or breaking down of the paint. Not in acrylic, though. No, I meant the lead white. So it used to be like lead white was like all the rage in the white. Women put it on their face. It was used in paintings. Difficult, crazy, poisonous to make. They used to, the people that would make the pigment would have to bring milk like to work because they were trying to counterbalance the poisoning they were getting.
Huh. That's crazy.
Drinking milk?
To counter the.
The lead. I know, it's wild, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just making sure that what's up top is happening at the bottom. A lot of fun for me to do. You know, and I'll come back through with dark colors for sure. Maybe even get a little lighter blue going in here. So you see I'm coming here with like little lighter reflections in the blue?
Yeah.
We're not taking it out of the late time of day. We're just making sure that some of our water, some of its little energy, even though it's quite energetic, has some of these lighter reflections. How you doing, babe?
Pretty good. I like watching the oceans come together.
Was good because you've been doing it for like 30 days. I
Well,
mean,
not yet.
we start a lot of this early, but we also like to make sure that we're just, you know, we wanted this year to be just a little bit ahead of everybody overall, just so that I would be going through what you guys are going through in similar time frames.
Mm-hmm.
So that those experiences were relatable. I rinse that out. That's getting pretty dry. Now, I may want to kind of really exaggerate the peach there. So I'm going to take a little of my quinacridone and my cad red and my titanium white and get some of my glazing medium into it, as you do. Look at this right here.
I know it's very, very pink.
Isn't that wonderful how you can do that? Now I'm going to glaze over the top. So this almost goes back to the purpley sunset that we did, kind of a similar atmospheric event in.
It really does.
I haven't taken out the blue. I don't want to take out the blue. I'm just making sure that there's a bit of a peach there. I can go forward. I'm brushing a little bit of that quinacridone on the edge of my number 8 cat's tongue. So it's a very brushy brush,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it creates a little bit of atmosphere, right? If my soft brush is dry enough, I may even be able to come back over with my mop and just very, very gently make sure that that has a blendiness to it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to grab some of this color mix. And I'm going to make sure that some of it is distinctly going to be also happening on the water.
I like the color that the waves catch.
But and they super do though. I mean, and that's the thing is to realize is the waves will catch color, the ocean will catch on to color. Clouds, the different aspects of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just getting more into the quinacridone. Are going to make it into your ocean. So we're adding it kind of through there. Rinse out. This is fun.
Yeah.
Now we're going to bring a little bit of more drama down lower. So let's take a little of our, our cad red and our cad yellow. Make a nice little orange here. Get a little glazy medium. I'm going to brush out some like little reflection strokes. A little more yellow here. You can see that just sort of creates that. Go on the toe. I'm making those little atmospheric marks that define some of those sunsets sometimes.
Yeah.
Now I can always come down at the bottom with a little bit of cad yellow into my cad red, so it's just much more cad red.
Ooh.
Back over from this side. And again, very thready, very sunsetty in the way sunsets tend to bleed into each other.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get into my yellow. And just make sure that I've got yellow coming through here. And you'll see me turn my canvas a little bit, and that's just me trying to get a better angle for when I'm painting and not to be torquing like my back or neck. And that's important to do, is to be aware of your body posture.
Yep.
And make sure you're in no way hurting yourself. Just bringing this through, making sure that those things are a little bit kind of balanced out. Now, as you can imagine, a lot of that will be around in the ocean. It can be important to keep track of. That's a good sort of beginning right there.
Really is.
Through here, I can take a little of my orange. I can start to speak to some of it a little bit.
Color's just really pretty.
Just is a lot of fun. It can be a problem, though, if you're doing very, very student paint, to get a great, let's get our cad red and our quinacridone, to get a great kind of coverage over the purple. That's something to be aware of, and it may take you a little bit of work to get it.
Now, this is a wet brush over a dry canvas, right?
This is a wet brush over dry canvas. I'm taking a little of my dot purple into it, just so even through here, so notice I took a little Doc's purple into my cad red quinacridone mix. I'm just starting to, even though it's very dark, warm some of what's happening. Let's call that a step, because that was a lot.
That was.
It was a lot. And we'll come back and add another layer. So let's add some clouds.
All right.
Clouds. I'm going to use a number 6 hog bristle brush. This is a Cambridge, but it's been very difficult for people to find. So what I would say is what you're looking for is a chunking hog interlocked brush around the size of your pinky, because brush sizes, as we've talked about before, are not universal across brands or even within lines. But that's what you're kind of looking for, is a nice scruffy brush that can let you do some nice cloud work. We're going to do some nice clouding. Let's take our dioxazine and our ultramarine.
All right.
And a smidge, interestingly enough, of our titanium white. And I don't mind if we get into our old sky blue. And we're going to make some light. little marks up here in the upper clouds,
All right.
creating this deep upper cloud bank experience that could be going on. I will get a little of my glazing medium into it because I want my clouds to be transparent and fluffy and enjoyable. I hope this is your best cloud breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
Things that I'm doing is I'm making sure that my cloud forms are irregular and that I'm not cloning the same shape again. Another thing that I will do is I'll make sure that some of the sky,
Yep.
especially the blue, peeks through.
Oh,
It'll be
yeah.
very important that the sky peeks through. Now, towards the center, it'll get darker because those will be thicker and they will be in shade. I'm on the toe of the brush. I do kind of a circular motion, but I'm not going circle, circle, circle. It's a very like engage, release kind of brush stroke.
Oh, yeah.
Using the glazing medium to let me get transparent and quite forgiving little elements here. It can do a lot for me if used correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can get beautiful, ephemeral, fluffy little wisps
It's
into
interesting
the
how
sky.
clouds can be similar, but none are the same.
Clouds can be similar, but none are the same. It's true, actually. Bring some of these little dark clouds down here. And I think it's important to remember that in a sunset like this, there's a lot of clouds in silhouette.
Yep.
And we need to kind of paint them. Sometimes they're little wisps, like this. So we can come on the little toe of our brush and put in some little wisps. Just thinking about the way skies are can help us. Help us know how we're going to paint that.
Yeah. I like these clouds.
I do too, very much. Very, very, very much. And we have enough of a basis down here that when we come down and do the water, it's going to be one of the best. If you're here for Acrylic April, this is going to be one of your favorite of the 30. If you came in for the sunset, I'm sure you came in because you thought the thumbnail was pretty and you were like, the lady says I can paint it. Maybe I can paint it.
Maybe.
You can.
You can.
But it's okay if you don't know that right off the bat.
Really, these types of cloud breakdowns are super easy to do. The biggest thing I would say is just finish the product, the painting, because at the end you can see it. It's hard to see it in the middle.
Yes, it really is. Hard to see in the middle what you're doing. Hard to see. I'm going to take a little of my docs over to my quinacridone. Still get my glazing medium into it. Maybe down here.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of create an interesting little... They're almost like cruise ships. I'm going to turn my canvas to the side so I can get it.
Okay.
But they kind of remind me of little sky cruise ships that they're just trucking along, doing their cloud thing up in the sky.
That reminds me. One of my favorite fantasy animals is sky whales.
Really?
Yeah.
You want to paint a sky whale? You can paint
that'd
a
be
sky whale
cool.
if that's like your favorite. I don't mind.
I
don't know how it would do in the metric, but I mean, I'll paint a sky whale.
I mean, you could just paint one, and then we could have it.
I could just give it to you. I mean, I suppose I could go back to painting, for just us.
Just for, the fun of it.
No, I don't know how to do that anymore. Everything is for the community. We know it's true. So you can see I'm just adding little bits of these. Coming up top, though, I want to get into a much darker purple. I still can use my glazing medium to help me keep this soft and diffused.
Mm. It's interesting. The darker clouds make it look like it's a denser cloud.
It really does. So they're backlit, they're darker. It really does help if field dense and more filled in. I do want little bits of the blue and stuff to be showing through. So that's going to be what we're thinking about as we happily paint some clouds in.
This is all just done on. This is sort of a dry, brushy kind of technique.
Well, it is. It's very light. I'm not putting a lot of water in, but I don't have to put a lot of water in because I've got the glazing medium in my brush.
Oh.
And that's letting me lay down transparent kind of layers of color and build them up. And that's a wonderful way to paint anything. To be really honest, it's usually pretty terrific. Every once in a while, I want to bring some shadows down into some of the wispier clouds. Definitely here on the outside edges. You can see I'm always sort of invested in making sure that some dimensionality here.
This is the sort of the darker parts of the cloud.
Yeah, because they do. They have shadows, and you gotta paint them just like you paint anything else. Everything has form.
That's what gives it the dimension when you're done.
Is what gives it the dimension that you're done when you're done. It actually really is. So I'm just a little more dark color. I want to make sure that up here, even in these clouds, right, that they're not just one. They're not a one cloud pony. That is a very terrible metaphor. But they're not just one thing. That they have a lot of life in them and energy into them, and little shading that happens so that they too kind of come into it. That's looking lovely.
Oh, yeah.
Just rinsing that out. Every once in a while, I'll give a good rinse out because you really got to. I'm going to take a little of my quinacridone and a smidge of my Doc's purple. I will get some titanium white into it. And of course, glazing medium where necessary. Maybe even a little cad red where necessary. It's a very interesting color. Yeah, I like the cad red into it. Just warms it a bit. See it there?
Yeah, it does. It makes it kind of almost purpley.
Which normally it wouldn't, but in this particular case it does. There we go. We're just picking up some of the bottoms of these, and that's what kind of pulls some form in. Very important, this layer with the purples. How have you enjoyed the acrylic April journey so far, John?
I've actually really liked all of the different water, seeing all the different water techniques. And actually, there's been a fair number of good skies, too.
I feel like from this 30 days, I have so many tip videos to make now. This is like completely shortlisted my tip videos. Like, oh, I gotta make a tip video on this, and I gotta make a tip video on this. And I bet everybody would like to know how to do this, but without having to do a whole hour painting. I really want to give some love to our moderators and everyone who helps us do this program every year. We could not do it alone. It would be weird and different and not as good.
Wow, that sort of mid-light, the mid-tone on that, just really.
It does. It takes it to that next place, doesn't it? Now, I don't paint out every purple, right? Because that would be counterproductive to what we just did. You want these colors to kind of relate to each other. But of course, it's important that they build in layers. Quinacridone, maybe a little cad and some dots and white. Building these up.
That's it's really sort of set the stage for the sky.
Set the stage. Well, the sky is the drama. The drama of the sky is just so dramatic.
Hmm.
Drama sky is so dramatic. It's kind of nice. Drama cloud is so dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Man, that sky's cool.
We are not done, but let's call this a step because we've got to get into some different fiery colors and start weaving these all together. So let's break here, come back. No need to dry it or anything. We're going to be coming right back into it.
Okay.
But you could dry it if your painting was very, very, very wet.
Hmm.
Really. Let's just dry it. That's safest for everybody. So the reason I was like, dry it, don't dry it, is that for me, I could totally paint it wet into wet and it wouldn't be a thing. But for you at home, the next layer might be easier if it were dry, which is why I decided to land on that. If you're wondering, like, what was that about? That's what that was about. Sometimes I think about what you guys are going through and then make decisions based on that. I'm going to take a little bit of my quinacridone and my cad red together. They make such a really special, fun color. And I'm going to get the smidge of the dark purple, as you do. Right? And we're going to start coming here and building in this sort of now towards the bottom range.
Now
Super
these are
fun.
little sort of little swirly brush marks.
They are a little bit, they're not swirls, because I think when we say swirls, this is what everyone thinks they want to do. They are curved, and I do engage and disengage the brush a lot from the canvas. I think sometimes when we're describing our brush marks, especially to beginners, it's important to not like, because sometimes when swirly, everyone's going to go swirl.
Right.
And that's going to just ruin their moment. We don't want to do that. Bringing this out here more towards the tip. Everything towards the sun and in the space where it could be reflected by the sun is going to end up being much warmer, which means it's going to go more into the reds, yellows, and oranges. And get my little glazing medium.
That glazing medium has been very popular.
It is just bringing me joy. I'll rinse out a little bit. Now comes the fun. Here comes the sun, little darling. Here comes the sun. And I'll say, and to make sure the brush is not too wet. That's going to be an important part. I'm not really in the CAD anymore. Definitely still get my glazing medium on here.
Oh, that's...
I don't want to have purple happening here in this space. That's not what I would be looking for. Just making this much warmer. Come under the bottom of some of this.
Very warm.
Very warm. And then we're going to even kind of come in and warm up this cloud a bit. And you can see as we move out towards the sun, it goes red. These are important little things that will start to happen.
Wow, that sky is just awesome.
it will come together in short order. It really does. Just bringing little highlights, showcasing where some of that would maybe come to.
Love the red there.
I do. I love it when we start getting the red involved into the sky.
Mm-hmm.
It really makes it enjoyable for me. Because that's when it feels like it goes on fire.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to continue to add yellow into the mix, brightening it up. Come under here.
Ooh, getting orangey.
Yeah, you want to put some little orange highlights under some of it because it would have them. They were pulling that brighter highlight under there. A couple places.
Yeah. Just.
And it just says, oh, wow, something caught the light there, didn't it?
Does.
It's just no need to skip it.
Ooh. It's really, I just can't say how cool that, because it looks like it's just stretching across the sky.
It does start to look like it's just stretching across the sky. You can put different little orange little clouds that might be happening here. Speak to that energy that's going on. And it's just real pretty in its space, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can even get a little of this into my peach that I had up top. Quinacridone kind of space. And like even up here we can kind of, even the bits that were maybe a little in the shadows can start to have highlights too.
Oh, yeah. The shadowy bits are awesome.
That's how the sky finds its form, I think. But we just catch all that up, and it's just really a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to take a little bit of our white and yellow. Come here and kind of play with the light shimmering through here. It's still distinctly yellow. It's still distinctly yellow.
That yellow is very bright.
Yellow is very bright. And then I'm going to rinse out my brush. Make sure that I'm pointed. If this won't come to a point, I'll switch to a brush that would.
Okay.
Mine is going to come to a point, but I know sometimes you guys have hogs that resist at all being on point. They're like, no, I wish to be fluffy only. All right, let's call that a step. So let's come in and put in the water. We're going to switch to a number 4 round. That's just to give us a little more control over what's happening, and we're going to start creating some detail.
Okay.
The first detail that I want to really kind of get into is I'm going to take a little bit of my cad red over to my doc's purple. And it's still going to be purple, but it tints into the red, and it's going to let me start to lighten a bit some of the darker purple space here in the center.
Mm.
Now we're still going to have lots of darks in the ocean. The waves and the shape are going to definitely be defined by the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be a little easier for me to come back later and put those in. And I want to get them in after I have this in. I'm going to come into my red. This is much more my pure red. Right, like almost right under the sky.
Oh, yeah. That sun reflection.
Going to start to be. Everything that was going on up on top is going to have some little sense of it down here. I'm using short strokes. I'm coming across and I'm letting the waves kind of be expressed by those little strokes.
Mm-hmm.
And then even coming forward, right, like even if it's super choppy here a bit,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to bring that forward to that edge there. So even as that wave is doing its thing, it's still going to have that forward edge. I'm going to go ahead and get a little of my, I'm going to make sure there's no purple really in my brush, and I'm going to
Okay.
mix a little of my orange and red together. Very important.
Capture the.
Orange in the water coming down.
It's that corridor of light you were talking about.
Corridor of light in landscape and nature and in life that we must look for. When in shadow, look for the light. And sometimes I find, and this is weird and kind of a meta deep thing,
Mm-hmm.
but I've come to realize that sometimes when you see shadow, you can find the light source, even if the light is outside of your reach,
Hmm.
right? Or outside of your vision.
Oh, yeah.
By the orientation of the shadow, I can orient to the light. And this is not just in painting. I find this to be true in life, like even morally, right?
Okay, yeah.
Or in stuff that's happening in my life. If I'm having trouble in my life, sometimes by paying attention to the orientation of the shadow, I can follow that to where the light would be, even if it's out of my sight.
Mm.
I need to bring this through here. Lots going on, right? So I know that was a little deep, but it's really
Oh,
true.
no.
I love painting this little corridor here. And again, we'll put some shadows back through. And then maybe even highlight those, but I just like to start to paint all the little colors that represent what's happening here. And I kind of want this to really come around the edge here.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
I'm going to make sure that that comes off the edge. I want that to be a very strong, considered space.
The directionality of the brush here tells a big story of where
that wave is going, and we just want to have a little bit of a curve on that so that we can see that that water is kind of going up into that wave.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get back into these two and even sometimes a little bit of the dioxazine purple. It's kind of that weird purple cloud light that we had up there.
Yeah.
And let's get it a little bit lighter. Kind of a weird cloud light, isn't it?
It is.
There we go.
Just extending that corridor all the way down to the beach.
Taking it with us. A little purple going in there. Sometimes that can be nice. A little light in there.
Mm-hmm.
Come over on this side. It's looking okay,
Yeah.
right? It's a little kind of even toned at this stage. And we've got some very specific things that we're going to want to do as we go forward.
Mm-hmm.
I put some yellow into that. It's kind of interesting when you get it right into that turquoise range.
Oh, I love the turquoise.
Let's bring that along here. Again, you can wander some of the turquoise over this way.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of integrates the two of them. Now we're going to come back and we're going to put in some structure with some dark shadow and then finish with our final highlight. So I'm seeing right here where a little of my watercolor didn't get really quite covered with my yellow, so I'm going to come back and
You're the color of water, not
blend in a little bit.
as opposed to the watercolor medium.
Right. The watercolor medium blend a little bit into that. So that's something that can happen, and that's how I would fix it if I saw it, which I did just now, and then fixed it.
Just now.
Just now. And, you know, you'll be painting and you'll be like, oh, what's that? Oftentimes, and be like, I see you. So I'm going to take my dioxazine purple and my ultramarine blue. They make a very lovely kind of shaded wave color. I'm going to pull in a little bit of this wave.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this little shadowed wave that's up here. But it is not alone.
Ooh, what's that?
You have to put in other little waves or shades.
Oh,
This
those
is
are
the ocean.
the little shadows of the waves.
Yeah.
The set,
They
as
do.
it were.
They create little shadows, these little areas that we will exaggerate. You'll find different little ones here. Sometimes, again, you've got to see the shadow,
Mm-hmm.
see what's happening out in the ocean.
Wow, those are great.
Little bits that happen out there because now they're making little sets, which means that we can come in and add some pretty light colors. Around them.
Mm-hmm.
Even
Wow, that's that little edge of the wave curling there.
a little bit, yeah. It's having its little moment, and you can be like, oh, hey. Yeah, you can find these little expressions of light,
Mm-hmm.
and you can play with them and enjoy them and like painting this
Mm-hmm.
kind of a thing. Playing with the light. Rinse out. We're going to run some more lights in that violet,
Okay.
which is our cad red and Doc's purple and a bunch of quinacridone magenta and a ton of white.
I really like that violet.
Yeah, it's a wonderful violet. And if you let the violet kind of highlight the shadows, really start to help that water take a little form.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that ocean is amazing.
I love it a lot. For casting light. Cannot go wrong casting light.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We have that kind of going on in there.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to really need to get into this sort of center. Not all the way to the center, but it's quite bright. Not all the way bright, but it's pretty bright.
More of that corridor. The little
Start to
reflections there.
corridor the light.
The highlights of it.
Yeah, very important. Going right up to the little edge there.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're not at our...
That's crazy.
Pull that off that wave. It's starting to look like what it is. It's a good time to maybe even get a little of your bright orange going again. Just making sure that off here, this is the glittering bright sea that it should be.
Mm-hmm.
We can even add a little orange offsides into that purple. Add into that. Bring out into that wave. Pretty good.
Yeah, it really is.
Pretty happy, happy, happy.
I am too. I think that turned out amazing.
Now let's get a little light. Like a little yellow and a little white. This is very bright. Still yellow, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's very bright.
This is yet another wonderful shark-free painting.
It has been suggested that you should seek some help for your shark phobias.
It's again, there's enough people out there that agree with me. This is a practical concern, not a phobia.
It's so hysterical that you think so.
But those reflections are great.
The reflections really help it go this highlight, and you'll notice that I break them up between spaces. And that's because the water would do that. The water would break these up a bit. Right? And that's important to really play with, is like the way that the water would break that up. Now, while that's having a little moment,
Mm-hmm.
you can take your bright orange and come a couple of places. And just add a little glitter here and there of that. Catching water a few places as well. This can be a very nice tie-in. Make sure that your ocean feels like it's alive, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
And then, interestingly enough, at the end, pick a little bit of white. Because that is hitting that part.
Oh yeah.
All right, we did it.
That's amazing.
Wasn't that fun?
It was.
Let's sign it. Let's sign it. So I want to sign it, but I don't want to mess up the whole composition, so I got to really think about that. And that's something I always talk about, and I mean, because really, if you get it wrong, it can change the whole composition.
Mm-hmm.
And I want my signatures to be visible, but just not destructive. Okay. Another day down, another beautiful body of water represented in color.
Oh man.
Just thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to share and tell your friends about this course. If you just ran into this because you like the thumbnail and you like there's 30 free paintings and written out chapter books and all of that, yeah, go check all of that out. This whole program will be up into, I think, I don't know, as long as there's a YouTube, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be there where you can do that. It really will show you how to paint water in landscape. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.